metering modes basically give you a representation of what the camera sees that light in that area to be. If you've had a chance to play around with your camera, you probably will have stumbled across your metering modes. The icons look kind of like this. But understanding what each one of those icons or metering modes does is kind of important. Your camera will look at the scene and it will decide how it exposes an image. This is something your camera does separate and kind of together with the exposure triangle. So the camera will look at a scene and it will decide how it wants to expose on its own, and then you will adjust the exposure triangle to fit within those parameters. There are 3 main metering modes. The terms may be slightly different for your camera, but it's kind of the same all the way across the board. So the first mode I want to talk about is matrix. The matrix metering mode works like this. Your scene, or what the camera sees, is divided into sections. There's one over here, one down there, and then one right in the center. So the short and the sweet of it is this. The camera looks at all of those different scenes. It takes all of the light information from all of those scenes. It averages it all together, and then it presents you with how it is interpreting the light currently. That is the matrix metering mode. Now, here's the thing. If your focal point is set right here in the center, then it will average all of this stuff together and give you the proper exposure, or what it thinks is the proper exposure for the settings you've set, but it will give preference to the focal point. If your focal point is over here, then it will still take all of these sections and average them together, but it will give priority to this section. And then it will present you with an image based on the settings you've dialed and those numbers combined. Center weighted metering mode. Center weighted means that it is looking at what is happening right here in the center of the screen, or the center of what the camera sees, and it is looking at the light and it is giving you the image that you are seeing based off of how it is reading the light right here in the center of the frame. Spot metering is the third metering mode. It is the most granular of the metering modes. So your camera has focal points, right? It focuses on different things and you can dictate where you want it to focus. Wherever you put that focal point, which means, say I put it right here on the tip of my nose, the camera will look at that focal point, the tip of my nose, it will read the light in that situation, and then it will present you with an image that is based on your setting and how those settings work with the light that it's reading off of the tip of my nose. So let's go back and review. Where would you use each one of these metering modes? Well, for example, if you are shooting a landscape, right? Something to where you've got earth, and you've got sky, and you've got the bright sun. You may want to use the matrix mode, because what it will do is it will look at the brightest point of your image and the darkest point of your image, and it will kind of configure all of those numbers together and present you with a proper exposure based on your settings. If you're shooting something like portraits, or you have a very specific subject instead of a vast landscape or a large scene, if you are shooting a specific subject, then center weighted is probably the best. Spot metering is for when you have a very specific, smaller subject. If you really only want to focus on one thing and expose your image based on the light that is hitting that one spot, then spot metering is best for that scene. However, all this comes with caveats and exceptions. You may be in a situation to where you have a landscape, but you only want to do spot metering so that the camera is reading the light and prioritizing the light that's in one specific location. You may be shooting a portrait that has a pretty cool background and you want to expose for both the subject and the background. So deciding what works best for you is going to take practice, but don't be afraid to change through your metering mode. Go into a scene or a situation, set your camera on one form of metering mode, get all of your settings dialed in, and then cycle through your different metering modes to understand how your camera is interpreting that light. So once again, metering modes basically give you a representation of what the camera sees that light in that area to be. Your camera is constantly looking at light. So by changing through your metering modes, whether you're in matrix, whether you're in center weighted, or whether you're in spot, gives your camera the ability to look at either all the light in the scene, some of the light in the scene, or just a small amount of light in the scene, and then base its exposure off of that.